With us tonight, Miran Mohar. Miran will have a presentation with the same title as this course, which was running until today. That's it. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock we will have a presentation of some of the works which were part of the process initiated through his course. I'll just read briefly something from his biography, and for everyone, materials are over at that black box. You can take materials. Participants have them in their email as well. So Miran Mohar is an artist based in Ljubljana. He's a member of the Irving Artist Group and a co-founder of Neoliberal Kunst, an art collective, the graphic design studio New Collectivism, and Skopje Našite Sisters Theater. Together with 4 other members of Irving, Dušan Mandić, Andrej Savski, Roman Vranjek, and Borut Vogelnik, he has participated in all Irving projects and exhibitions since 1984. Some of them are from Capital to Capital, Catania Sofia in Madrid in 2017, Planting Seeds, Laznia Center of Contemporary Art in Gdańsk 2016, again from Capital to Capital at Moderna Galleria in Ljubljana 2015, Hansen Luck Art and Capital, Lachenbrook Museum, Duisburg in 2014, and many more. As a member of New Collectivism graphic design team, he co-designed numerous books, posters, and other graphic design products for the following institutions: BS1 and MoMA in New York, Museum of Modern Art in Ljubljana, Kunstwerke Berlin, publications for Irving, Laiba, and similar. Among others, Castello di Rivoli and other museums, important museums. Since 1983, he has made several set designs for the following theater and dance companies: Randy Warsaw Dance Company, Scipion Nashidze Sisters Theater, Red Pilot, and similar. He's also the co-founder and member of architectural movement Maya Farol and a member of European Cultural Parliament since 2001. From 2008, he's also an associate professor at Vice Dean at AVA, Academy of Visual Arts in Ljubljana. He's also a tutor at the SCCA World of Art Curatorial School based in Ljubljana. Miran is also an important, let's say, member of the core group of partners and institutional, let's say, collaborations initiated through Summerschoolasschool by Stacion Center for Contemporary Art since the beginning of the initiative. This year we invited him to do a course focused on design, and I'm really happy that we will have also a presentation, maybe among very few presentations that he does about his work in design. I will not make it any longer. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, does it work? The sound works. Thank you very much, Albert, and I would like to thank all team of Stacion and Summer School to invite me here. It's such a great project you're doing, and you're taking it to a really high level, and you're putting so much energy. I have a big respect for this. It's very, very important. It's not important for the region of ex-Yugoslavia, it's important in the worldwide world context, I think. It's people are coming here from everywhere and they become more. So, well, when I was a young boy, my mother wanted to become, that I become a waiter. You know, that was a utopian profession in the small working town in Jesenice on the border of Austria and Italy, and I was 15 and I ran away from home, really. I ran away because I wanted to be a designer. I wanted to be something connected with that. So it was my first profession, and I entered to the design, and then I also had later on other professions. I studied painting at the Academy of Fine Arts, and then I was involved also in design. My presentation will not be theoretical. I'm not a theorist. I will share with you some thoughts on design and art and relations, and I will show you some examples at the end of my work, and some of the works or art movement which inspired me and my colleagues, and how I see design today, and how I was thinking about design. When I say design, I don't want to be too general. I think mostly of graphic design, because that's what I am, because there are very different principles, for instance, in industrial design, product design, than in graphic design. I think that we need to reflect our professional activity constantly, frequently, in the media we work in. If we don't reflect this, we can come close to the Marcel Duchamp saying, stupid as a painter. So we can be stupid as painters, we can be stupid as designers, we can be stupid as, even stupid as philosophers, we can be stupid in all professions where we don't reflect why we do it and how we do it. He basically divided art to a lower status of retina art, where you just enjoy in the artwork by seeing it, and a cerebral art where you are transferring some kind of intellectual message with it. So that you go beyond that idea that painters are painting, poets are making poetry because others did it in the history, and you don't even ask why in the 21st century you're using color and you are putting it on the canvas with the hair from the animal ear, you know, and if you don't reflect that, you have a problem. You have a big problem. So I always start, I also teach in Ghana, I start with these basic questions in every media. The design without a reflection is writer craft. Okay, so there's also a reason why I choose this topic. I almost never do lectures on design. But I decided here, and I talked with Albert, I will do what he believes is needed here as well. So I understand that your idea was that I do something, so our workshop is on graphic design, we are making political posters. Political posters, and that's, I decided that one of these lectures will be public. Since I will link design and contemporary art, I hope it will be also something for others who are not interested in design, but primarily I relate to students and others who are interested in graphic design and status, just to be clear why I decided. So here you see, I think that today contemporary art can be inspiration for design, as it was historically also constructivism. Constructivism is the first movement which understands graphic design in general as complex operation and a tool for transforming society. So basically, productivist, constructivist related to art as something bourgeois. Not only art, historical art, but also modern art at that time. So for their idea was design as something with which we not only aestheticize, we are changing society. It's a tool for transformation. It was a very, very radical idea. And this, I think when we speak today of design, we forgot that. We see design as aestheticization, as solving problems which are not really problems, and so on. So, of course, this painting, this poster here, Krasnym Klinom bi Bielych, which in translation means fight with a red triangle whites, which were Russian, how to say, Belagarda, which was basically against Contra-revolution. Contra-revolution, that's a good, yes, a good term, yeah, exactly. Okay, so here is also, we have some political posters, images, how to depict masses in a very innovative way. I will not go much to this because I only need it for that you understand the references. And then, of course, you have situation in Russia, specifically that artists were also involved in architectural idea. We find this, the only parallel we find in Renaissance, but for different reasons. These ideas of complexity of human activity, of complex person, artist. So this is the monument to the Cirque International of Vladimir Tatlin, which was never built. It's basically unbuilt project, but it became as maybe known and popular as it would be built, you know. So it's an icon of the future. Then, of course, also very strong influence on design and graphic design was come from Dada. Dada used graphic language. We had, as you all know, we had Zurich and Berlin Dada. So John Hartfield is a German artist. His original name was Johann Herzfeld, and who in the protest against the Nazi changed his name to John Hartfield. So he was using this artistic language from Dada, but he was a master of collage, of juxtaposition of different images. For instance, this is the method how he worked. Here he, as you see, he's putting Marx billets to Hitler, two socialists with different orientation, one international, one national. And this is also a cover of the magazine. What's interesting here is that he was, of course, sometimes he was also a member of the German Communist Party, and he was doing it for his own cause. So basically, we can say that all history of art, in a way, or big history was kind of design. I mean, the logic of design. You would have somebody who ordered a furniture, ordered a painting, or a building. There was not such a difference. What made design art was complexity of project. Like complex architecture become art, and complex visual art, like painting, become art. But what I wanted to say is that it is important that graphic designers have education and knowledge that modern art is the mother and the father also of design, graphic design. So I don't believe you can just go and use aesthetic typographies and shapes and compositions and so on. These are techniques, and this is, I think you have to be also connected, you have to be also informed about history of art. That's because I'm also teaching here in UBT. We do have, I have a course, a studio course on this as well, so with some of theoretical and practical knowledge of this. Okay, this is another work of John Hartfield, another collage. I think I'm not a German speaker, but maybe this is something like this was in the Middle Age, and this is so in the cerebral. That's how I understand it. Okay, so sometimes just a visual language with no with very small words, even it would function without words. The Christmas tree. And now you see this image. The people under the Tatlin Tower are my colleagues from NSK Slovenische Kunst at that time. These are from different groups. Leibach, it's a group which started in 1980, and they start this kind of totalitarian rock. I'm coming from Irving Group, as I said. Here I'm also a member of New Collectivism and Theater, Cyprian Nasice. This is our first group photo. We did it in very late 87. We were established in 1984. We didn't do any photo then, I don't know why, but we were not dead, you know. We were just working and taking less photos. So that's, you know, here I'm connecting the Tatlin Tower. So we did this model for the theater production, and I just wanted to reconnect this image with another one because we relate to constructivism, to productivistic movement, but at the same time we also relate to Dada as a radical critique. And you know, whenever you have a movement, we understood that the movement, artistic movement, must appear, must have also body, must have a physical appearance, must have a visual appearance. So we basically started to design ourselves. So we didn't have anyone who said, please design a poster, please design this for me. We just asked ourselves, as John Hartfield did as well, you know. Maybe the quality of his works is exactly this, that he had this kind of, I would say, a field of, independent field of I don't find the right English name, but some autonomy, because autonomy. Yeah. So the first thing we designed was a logo. And this logo, we understood it's quite ugly, you know, it's quite terrible, you know, because it's a little dystopian, it looks a little bit strange, you know, and so on. But, you know, we were living in the time of the 80s where the crisis of the language was very strong already, you know. I mean, in the years of the 60s, 68, in the 70s, people were speaking more or less positivistic language, while we could not, because we didn't have a position. They could call it like a second avant-garde or something. We had a situation that avant-garde, the Communist Party said we are the avant-garde of the working class. So the position of the avant-garde was occupied, so we had to take our position of retro-avant-garde. So we understood when you have a crisis of the language, and of course politicians were full of promises and nice, sweet words, and our language was dystopian in a way. We used over-identification, which Zizek later theorized as well, you know, but it started with Laibach in Slovenia. And yes, we started to design, we first designed the logo, and then we designed, the organogram, the organization. So at that time, it was a time of the punk movement, and people, in our generation, friends from our generation were against institution, against the state. But we said we just need better institutions. We must design it. We must build them. How you can be against institution if there is no functioning institution? You can, yes, you can be against, yeah, but institutions are extremely important, you know. So we did this kind of scheme. We designed it. At this today's presentation, I'm not going to many other projects. I just focus basically on the graphic works, graphic design of NSK, and later on the state. At the end, I will show some examples we were doing for other institutions. So, because I talked here already about ELP project, NSK project, and so on, but this time is very specific. So, it was extremely important how we appeared. We appeared with this kind of a little bit of dystopian look. What nevertheless said on the lecture, we had zero irony. Of course, when you watch it, it was totally real. But if you dig very deep and you go, I don't know, deep in the to our projects and ideas, you will find humor, but not irony on the first time, because irony is a very dangerous thing for us, because you declare at the beginning you're not serious. Who will believe you? Not that. So I'm just joking. So it means that you start already with a joke, and you became a joke there. That's, I think, it's a problem, you know. So, but of course there are great artists who are using irony in a great way. We didn't know how to use it in a great way, so we were just we tried to develop our own language. So we started to then design things for our different groups. So we started to design posters. This is for poster for the Laibach concept, and the poster, of course, also carried kind of ideology of the group and NSK and so on. This was the first poster for Irving exhibition. I mean, it's we took motifs from social realism, kind of social modernism, and we included it in the poster. So the posters was sometimes ugly, strange, and so on. They were not part of dominant aesthetic. So this is poster for theater performance. This was another record cover for Laibach. You can see the building of, I would say, something between Kiefer and Speer, you know, and that's recognizable. So, and also, you know, just for some who might be interested, we called ourselves Neue Slowenische Kunst in German. I mean, we also, this was also designed in a way. So, because we wanted to provoke the question, what is national? So the German language was at the same time the language of traumatic experience of the Second World War. At the same time was a language which of a great culture which has a very strong influence on Slovenian cultural space. So it was kind of double. It has kind of double position. Okay, so these are also some of the record covers, and here you have also Let It Be, remake from the Beatles. When I've been at the same time designer and the painter, and we painted Leibach in an old technique, you know, and we include them on a cover. So then we were doing also different publications. This is the publication Capital. We started a series of paintings in the 1989, and we finished in 1991. And at that time, Yugoslavia fell apart, and the meaning of the Capital, before it was referring to the Marx book, Capital later became, the beginning was just Capital, and the end was Capital, so it changed the mind. The country, Slovenia, was independent, international banks were coming in, and capital, yes, and so on. Different catalogs, these are a series of catalogs for Irving Group. We had a very simple concept that whenever we come to the one city, Düsseldorf or somewhere, we just take a typical stone. They had it, you know, or on the graveyards, or they have it in the buildings, or they would have some kind of a stonemason place where they get these stones, and that was very simple. You know, we always had an idea. We couldn't stay without the idea. So we were not that original. We said that we are unoriginal way. You know, that's one possibility. So sometimes we are doing strange things. This is the suitcase for spiritual use. It is a suitcase we did for propaganda. We were doing a theater show, and we wanted to do propaganda, and we were sending this was the inside of this was the works of different groups, and everybody get it for one night. And the newspaper always publish who get it, and then people call us, well, I didn't get it, I'm unimportant and so on. So people were calling us. So sometimes we were doing like certain manifesto as objects for different groups. This is for theater, Cosmokinetical Cabinet Nordum. This also some books done in metal. So, and this is like an invitation when we appeared in Venice Biennale in the 1985 or 6, I think, and we had a kind of proto pavilion already at that time. And we used the image of Mussolini because in the typography from the time when Biennale was opened by Mussolini and Hitler, and only fascistic countries participated. This is, of course, not so visible when you come to Biennale. They don't like to reflect it too much. It's somewhere, you can find it. They don't have, but they don't show it. So this is, 10 points from the, yes. So we covered at that time all Venice with our posters, so we just make it be officially there, but we use the letters from the Nazi time. Okay, I'm continuing. Maybe in some of my presentation already touched this, but never mind. This is a photo of celebration of Tito's birthday at the Stacion of Yugoslav army. This is the year it should be 90, and why I'm showing this is because every 25th of May, every year, the pioneer, the young people all over Yugoslavia participated in the ritual of bringing the message of the President Tito in the torch, in the stick, to his birthday. And each year, each one republic prepared this event. And that year, I think it was 86 or 87, my memory, I'm over 60, so I have to make notes for these things, but it's not so important. Slovenia was the one who has to prepare the event. and it was always competition for best, for poster and torch, and also to scenario. So we sent our proposal and we win. We were the winners. So what we did, we took a Nazi poster, not a Nazi painting by Richard Klein, which was for some sport event, and we changed the symbols. So we, instead of swastika, we put the star. Instead of eagle, we put the pigeon of peace. We put some partisan letters, this day of youth, Dan Nadost is missing here. We designed also a torch, which was idiotic because it was atop a non-existing parliament of Josef Plečnik and 6 kilo. It has 6 kilo, which is impossible to run. No. And we had a strange proposal that in the middle of Bohil Lake we would build Slovenian national parliament, non-existing in a forum of Tatlin, you know. Constructivism, when there will be a kind of constructivistic ballet, and people who would come, delegate, should come on the boat, but they should be all blonde and the same size. So it was, and it was accepted, you know. You wouldn't believe it, it was accepted. So it's this, you know. So we did animation, I have a film, and if you're interested to see where it goes, you know, never mind. And of course, you know, what happened is, to make it short, that one guy, engineer Grujic from Sarajevo, discovered where this image is coming from. It's coming from a book from Poznan to Sarajevo, and Sarajevo Oslobođenje published the story that this comes from the Nazi book, and also Politika published it. And then a huge scandal happened. We were interrogated, investigated, and so on. They wanted to put us for 5 years in prison, but somehow we had a good lawyer, and we made a public exhibition, and people like Zizek, Slava Dolar, and others were protecting us. After 1 year of this, which became a really huge scandal, there were hundreds of articles, it went beyond. I find out about this, that we have a problem. I was in New York, and I read in the New York Times for morning coffee. The 4 guys did a poster for Tito's birthday, and I immediately called my wife. She said, police was here, I didn't open because I didn't have any papers. Okay? There was still certain normality. But at the end, after 1 year, they abolished the whole story, and the general prosecutor said they just used a legal retro avant-garde method when more reading was possible. So they basically accepted our rules. But why? Because Slovenia and Serbia were already in conflict. So the Slovenian politicians started to protect us, otherwise there would be no mercy. So, okay, so, yes, let's go on. Yes. Okay, this is also a design we did for a Slovenian newspaper magazine Mladina, which means the youth. And this is was some anniversary of the victory over the fascism. You know, 27th of May in Slovenia. So, and it's Tito is cutting the flag. So,
is there some irony in it?
Some irony? No, of course not. Yeah, if you find it, you know, the funny thing was that we did this, you know, and then this is the kind of left magazine, and then also the Croatian Ustaša using the same image, you know. So it shows how every image can be appropriated, interpreted differently. You just put another text, another logo, and it's something different. You know. Okay, so this is also this poster we did before the Tito's birthday, Day of Youth, where we use socialistic image and the German Nazi sculpture breaker, but we were just opposing different styles of constructivism, modernism, totalitarian style, because we were interested in this juxtaposition. We were interested in this kind of space in between. We wanted to create a debate. It was not about just cheap provocation. We didn't know that this story with the poster will become something public, you know, so big. You know, we were very much afraid what's going to happen. We were absolutely, you know, just normal people who were afraid what is going to happen, but we didn't give up. So okay, so we were there already with the Capital in the year 1990, And now we are in the year 91. The war started in Slovenia, 10 days war. We had 10 days war. One day I woke up and there was a war. That's how it goes, you know. You had to go to the shelters, you think it's just rehearsing, but it was real. So, and we said, we are artists, designers, what designers should do in war. We know how to do posters, so we can find these posters. So we had a studio, we had a small screen printery, and we print this poster. We designed it in 1 hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, print it in 2 hours, and then we asked friends and we went to the streets of Ljubljana. So we started to put it on the walls, on churches, everywhere. But you can see the poster has a text, buy victory, not fight victory, buy victory. Negotiate, do it, you know. So, and when come Slovenian, I would say, Liberation Army, they asked for whom is this poster? They said for ours, for us. And then come Yugoslav army, we said for ours. So nobody knows, it was absurdity poster. It was not about just from one side. It was a poster referring to absurdity of war. So this is soldiers, we just put them in front of soldiers sometimes. So then we did another poster, we also glue it. I don't want to show all this kind of placement because it's not so interesting. Just we did with this one the same, and then we did another one for Croatian front. I would like to fight for New Europe, because this New Europe is very double. It's a problematic expression, of course, but it's also not. And we here we combine Nikola Tesla, as a Serbian guy from Croatia, with Croatian symbolism. So we put again some impossible combinations. And when we use this also this form of the poster also for the poster of the NSK state, which we created in the 1992. When you create a state, you even need more design. The movement is okay. You need to do a few things, but when you create a state, you have so many things to do. You know, basically, the state is a design. You know, basically, and if you do it very well, people will believe you. You know. If you do it badly, nobody will believe you. No, it's joking, but it's also true. So in the 92, we returned from Moscow, and we find out that we cannot be any more state artists of Yugoslavia, because there was no state anymore. So we had to create our own state to continue to be state artists. So on the basis of experience with discussion with the Russian artists and theorists, where we opened our NSK embassy, we find out that embassy functions so well because we communicate with Russians for about a month on the issues of art system, certain political questions of art, and we decided that we will transform NSK to state in time. Okay, yes, there I go. So, one of the first things is we designed a passport. Of course, passport is something you have to do it, but to design a passport is not so simple. You can have something artistically, in a sense, you know, on something, you know, but we wanted to have a real passport. So we persuaded the Minister of Inner Affairs to print it in the state printery. Because he wanted to buy a painting and we give him some discount. Not big, but 20%. You know. And so at that time we have maybe 60, 70 citizens in a year. Now we have about 15,000 about. So, okay, this is just another image of this passport. Then in the 1993 we were invited to Venice Biennale to represent Slovenia, and we didn't want to represent Slovenia. We believe that you, as an artist, you cannot represent a state. So we said we can only come if we would be a guest state. Zdenka Badovinac was a commissar, and she accepted the idea, so we come as our own country there. And of course that's, and we basically had these posters in the city where we propagated NSK citizenship. So, okay, I'm also showing this because it connects to art and design. So it's basically, in the post-media world, you cannot define what is, when something is designed. In post-media world, the painting can be designed and design can be art. You know, so it's not about, it's about context, it's about references and so on. So it's I think that we are living in a time when art is not anymore visual. The visuality is just something could be important or not. It's no visual art without visuality, but can be too. So, but it's the visuality can be or can be very misleading. And but sometimes it's also too much about context and we lost text. That's another problem, but it's not a question of this debate. Okay, so we also design, we open our own post office as a kind of parallel post office in Slovenian Ljubljana Post. So it functioned for a few months as NSK Post. You could use it as Slovenian Post, but also NSK Post, and we also design all these elements. And at the beginning of the 90s, we also appear on the net. And 94, 95, the internet was still very much text. There were very rare images, there were no films, there were some quick movies, but we did it with the money of some Japanese foundation. We did NSK Electronic Embassy Tokyo, where we used this kind of architecture where you enter basically to the NSK state, which was a floating state somewhere in some kind of suprematistic space. We consider ourselves that our NSK is a kind of suprematistic body in the real social political space. That's for us Malevich's idea was important and so on. Okay, so that is still from this NSK Electronic Embassy, which we designed. Then we were doing different works. NSK must, the state must have also, if it's a serious state, must have army, must have different departments. So we started to do collaboration with different armies around the Balkan, ex-Yugoslavia. I'm just showing you a few because I don't want to make my talk too long. We have maybe 12 of them in different places. The first one was in Tirana, which was organized by, I think, curator Edi Muka, and Edi Rama helped us to get soldiers, because he was, I think, at that time minister, I was the minister for culture, something like that. Yes. So we needed these soldiers for about 1 hour. They raised NSK flag, extended the tension for about an hour or something like that. So we did this in Montenegro. In Montenegro, and we made out of this, I'm showing it because we did out of these posters as well. The form of the poster we find the most appropriate, kind of propagandistic, and we did here with the Kosovo army. I'm not sure, but Steve Učeka was Kosovo army already, but I think it was something in between at that time. This was organized by, I think, Kerza Malic is here who did this, and Sokol Bećiri and Nezha Škololi and General Čelik. He was a general, he was later was. So these actions all required very high diplomacy, because when we do with the Czech army, we have to find somebody who went to school with Havel. So Havel was the commander of the forces, and only commanders or ministers for defense could give such a permission. We also designed statistics. This is the rise, sudden rise of the NSK citizenship because of so many requests from Africa came from Nigeria. We had in 1 year 3,000 new citizens from Lagos and Ibadan. So and then of course we went there to find out what happened, and then this is the poster, this is a propaganda in Lagos for a new state. It's time for a new state, son, so you can find happiness there. And then we started to repeat this message in different places. This is this was organized by Stacion in Kosovo, like I think about 5 years ago, or 6 maybe. And this is, we designed this place in Ljubljana. We demonstrate on anti-corruption demonstrations. Maybe this is the only positivistic action we did, you know. But even this one was very strange because we were this close and everybody hated us because we were dressed as bankers. So, you know. And they asked us, the media people asked us, why are you protesting? And he said, we only get 13 salaries, not 14. Usually we get 14 salary every year, but this year it was not. So there was something wrong. You know? This is in Kyiv. Charles Novi Državi, Title New State, and then we also designed the logo for NSK State Pavilion, which we opened last year in the Canal Grande, in the Catron, and you can see we use here the color of Biennale, the red, but we used the Nazi time typography from the time of two sponsors. You know. So, and then we have been doing also things like later on, for instance, when they wanted to abolish the Ministry of Culture, Ljubljana, very neoliberal politics, they wanted to merge it with a sport and so on. So, with less money in culture and art is important. We did this poster also overnight, we designed and distributed. It's called No Fear, everybody understand. You know, if we are not afraid, nobody can really control us, you know, really. It's true, you know, so it's and then again we find friends. They are, this is our studio, some of us, and we were posting the whole city, brutally, you know, everywhere. Of course we use the glue, which is very friendly, which goes down, and you can just wash it, but people wake up on Saturday morning, the whole city was full with no fear. Here I want to say something about a poster, about images in urban space. It is not the same thing as images we observe on telephones, on computer, because we do this alone. But these are the messages that happen in the public sphere, public place. We see other people who are watching it. It's the same thing as cinema. I mean, cinema is something totally different than Netflix on your computer. It's completely, the cinema has revolutionary potential. Or it has potential of activation. The posters also have some and so on, but that's different time. This is called Memento Mori, when it was also strong corruption in the parliament, so we are putting in the coffin parliament. Again, we fill the whole city with these posters. So from time to time, we are not just designers, we are also people who go on the street and distribute posters, and we ask friends, and we did this here. So. This is, I just choose some examples. I don't want to be too long with my presentation, but I will, let's see how, what's the time? Yeah, we can still go. I will just show you maybe, this is more for students of design, designers, or people who are interested in this, what we are doing also for some other companies. We are human people, we need money, so we do also business. We have this studio, neoliberalism is also a studio which operates. As Albert mentioned, we are doing publications from museum, we are doing posters for different theaters and so on. So, okay. Okay, these are the posters we were doing for National Theatre in Slovenia in the 80s from 3 parts. Basically, it was like this, that we took one poster, which is this one, from history, and then we have been, I go back, and then we were always changing text and images and all, but always this format stayed somehow. So it was the whole season for different shows. This was the poster where we put on one poem of Slovenian constructivist poet on Europe, so we did this kind of flag of United States of Europe, so it's a kind of I think it was, I even forgot for what it was, this poster, maybe it was just for fun, I don't remember, maybe nobody ordered it. So here we have been asked to do a poster about tolerance, so we did a poster about intolerance. So it's about smoking, you know, basically. But and of course, when we sent this poster was sent to different exhibitions, because it was a set. Every third place showing, because they were also not tolerant to this poster, you know. For them was too much, you know. So this is just what is on the cigarettes in India, you know. That's Sometimes we do object, information object. This is for Museum of Modern Art in Ljubljana. We do, instead of poster, we are doing these chairs which are freely distributed for different cafes so people could read about an exhibition in the space. This is the information object we did for Venice Biennale for an artist who was growing cabbage in Slovenian pavilion, and we proposed to design this water, which was given free to everyone. It was 10,000 of them, and whoever where it became information object. So everybody knew about this. It was a cheap way to make a propaganda, you know, but at the same time the water was useful for people. So we were always trying to find this kind of funny, functional ideas also. Not funny at the first sight. So that's we put also on this object the poem of Slovenian constructivist poet for the postcard, but we create object. It's called it's more the small coat, and this is the bottle with the imprint of the guy from Nuba Mountain who's walking every day 8 kilometers to get water. So basically it's called a museum water. It means the museum is preserving water, and you can buy this bottle for maybe €3, €4, and the money goes for some other things. Sometimes we're also doing, and we're not doing so rare, we're doing also exhibitions, so we design other content. Here is an exhibition, we designed the earthquake, exhibition about the earthquake in Ljubljana, which went to Ljubljana in the end of the 19th century. And it was quite a radical idea because there was no one object in the show. There were only, I think it was 36 projectors who projected images, but slide projectors, because this was done in the beginning of the 90s, so there was still no digital technology at those times. This is exhibition on Slovenian constructivism, and we did it like this because when we get all the works from constructivists was everything in one brown box. So we said we cannot, we have to elevate it. So what we did, we recreate the reactions on them in the media of the 20s, and in this reaction, this magazine, we did kind of implosion, and in this magazine we put artworks also. So this is very short, and basically I prepared this just a little bit for to see how I and my colleagues we understand graphic design. It's I think it's as Marcel Duchamp said that the biggest enemy of art is good taste, and I think sometimes you have to use good taste for something, you know. But I think it's basically, for me, it's always about paradoxes, about the ideas. I don't believe you can do something just with composition, this combination of colors and so on. I think you must think. And if you think, you'll find a way, you'll find a forum. So the forum is extremely important, and there is another element here, it's collectivity. Most of these works are done with 3 or 4 people, sometimes 2. So it's constant debate. We don't authorize this in a sense that we say this is now me, you, and so on. So, well, that's how I work. For many, many years I work in different groups, and I think it will be so because I'm too old to change, but I don't have a reason to change. So it's still interesting to do it. So I would like to, whoever is interested tomorrow, at propaganda time, will be presentation, as you said, at 10 o'clock, and we will have some debate. Whoever is interested to criticize, to comment, the posters, 6 students did, they did about, I think, 9 posters, some did more of them, is very welcome to come. Thank you very much. If you have some questions, you know. Yes, please.
If you can tell a little bit more about the border, or why graphic piece is not an art work?
Why the graphic?
Yeah, your opinion.
Yeah, for instance, you know about photographer Toscano.
Yeah.
Anybody, you know? He was a photographer and party designer for Benetton. And he was doing posters when, for Benetton, general statements, and he was using like motifs like uniform of American soldier covered with blood and so on. I mean, this was a big thing. So, and there was a discussion: is this art or not? I would say like this. I think that it was a great advertising, but not art. In his case. In a case of why, in a case sometimes, in most cases of John Hartfield, this is art, it's an interesting question. I think there are more things. One is complexity. Complexity makes art also in the case where art is very ideological, or even, I would say, how to say, ordered by money to be done. You know? So I don't think this is so simple question. You know, the question is why a really beautiful poster and with a nice idea for Chanel is art or not? Is it art or not? You know, that's. I think it's for me. It is some relation with autonomy between autonomy and complexity. I think that the answer is from case to case. There is no general. I mean, many art is just advertising, you know, basically, or conceptual art and advertising is very close, but it's sometimes have different reasons. You have these one-line ideas in art which are completely coming from this field, you know.
Or the Campbell soup of Warhol.
I'm sorry.
The Campbell.
Gamble.
Of Warhol.
Gamble.
Campbell. The soup, the design of Warhol.
Warhol took it from, he put for, this motif from one context and put it to another context.
Yeah.
Warhol, yeah.
But is there then the intention of the artist? Does the intention of the maker play the role in this?
Of course, absolutely yes. 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 I mean, intention is crucial. And if it is visible and documented, it is important. So if it is not visible, you don't know about it, you know.
So if the photographer or the Benetton had intentions to play with the public through marketing piece?
I think the intention of his boss, he had a boss, was to sell a lot of pullovers. If Benetton would sell less pullovers with this advertising, he would be fired, and he was fired. But maybe not because of this, and he was then appointed again. So you see, what the difference is that Benetton did this because his boss wanted that he can do it. He was not autonomous in this, you know.
But in this case, for example, you took over the Tito's birthday to organize.
I'm sorry?
The Tito's birthday to organize, you took over to do the design
yes.
and the preparation.
Yes.
And from this point of view, I see it more as an artwork because of your intention.
It became this, you know, because of the circumstances, you know. I mean, how we basically this work. I did an interview for Politica in Belgrade, and we were attacked that we were like nationalists with this action, but we said we were not. We wanted to have just more radical democracy because our position was that cult of personality is not acceptable and especially problematic on the left of political spectrum. So we were against cult of personality. We deliberately did this for that. But we didn't know if people would notice that. We did things before didn't notice certain things. So it's not always, you know, you cannot predict how things went. We did some moves then. We play with context, I would say. Yes, at the end became somewhere in the limbo between art and propaganda and you know, but I think it's, as I said at the beginning, in the post-media world, you cannot anymore define things but what you see and what media use. If you have today, if you do a copy of a similar painting like Jackson Pollock, this is not Pollock. It's even not in style. It is in style, but it's kind of hyperrealism. If you do a realistic copy of abstract painting, is hyperrealism. Could be hyperrealism of the painting because the painting is an object. So I think it's We are living in time when we have to think maybe more. That's just simple as that. But if you do something just for joy, it's also fine for me, no problem. I do many things just for joy. You don't need to be conceptual in everything, you cannot listen conceptual music for more than maybe half an hour, 1 hour. If you go to the blues concert, you can stay for 3 hours, So I'm not saying that everything must be conceptual and intellectual and so on. It's just, I think we have to reflect what we do, so.
Let's take in if there are any more questions.
I was just wondering if you think much about the transformative effect that the posters have on society, or is it more the transformative effect that the posters have on society? Posters. Or is it more important the act of making and distributing the posters?
I think it's, no, this is this. I think it's in every time, in every context, cultural context, things are different. For instance, Ljubljana is a space where we do have a culture of city posters. It means they are not only posted on the highways. They're not posted only in the big billboards, but they are also in the city. But this is just technical aspect of it. In reality, it's in the time of society of repressive tolerance, it's easy to make a scandal. You can do a scandal, of course, but I think it's I believe that the power today of art and also design of posters, it's limited. You sometimes find these kind of gaps, and I think it's important tool to be used. But I think that art is a very limited system. It's basically in many cases is overestimated. So in this case, we did this story with a poster. This is not possible anymore in our society. There was that time, but now even what we did, it has some effect. It was noticed and it was reflected and so on. It has probably some effect, but compared to that, very different and very minimal. Yes.
And what is the reason that you decided to bring the poster back to the city? I mean, if you think that this is, because I had the feeling that you really...
I think it's, first of all, we had some tradition of this already before. And second, it's totally different when you get information on an email and when you see it in the city. That's what I talked before. I think this physicality of image, being in outer space, it has another appearance, it has another power. That's like your image. If you see you in the city with cars, it's totally different when you see it as an image somewhere. It's different. It's just what I said. It's a collective observing. It's just that, I don't think it's important that we do it guerrilla style. We did it because we could also pay, for places and do it. It's not about that. It's just not. I not have this kind of romantic idea must be done this way. Next time maybe we'll pay some places, pay for some spaces, and we do it this different way. But important was for us that we act. It was a kind of also empowerment. That's important.
Can you maybe comment what is going on with posters now in Ljubljana? With all this, what's happening. Can you sum it up and maybe tell the people and your opinion?
Yes, I think it's, for me it's always problematic when they're discussing in cities about pollution of posters and images. On one hand, I really hate the cities which are completely close the traffic and don't allow any advertising. It's not real. I mean, the human life is like that if you want to sell what you do and you have a right to do things, So I'm not against this idea, but at the same time, I think it's also a problem if things are overwhelmed. So I think there must be some restrictions and rules in the city. I mean, I think that the public place should be preserved in a spatial, in visual sense. So I think it's Ljubljana has this problem that we have